When I was 17 years old, my family relocated to another state without telling me. I returned to an empty house and found a crumpled note on the dining table that read, "You'll figure it out." It was the coldest sentence I had ever read. I spent days wondering what mistake I had committed to deserve such treatment. The harsh truth was that they had never truly loved me. At 13, I baked a birthday cake for my mother, only for her to mock my effort. At 15, I tutored my brother through his final examinations, but he called me names and slammed the door. At 16, I handed my entire paycheck to my father to cover overdue utilities, yet he screamed that I was useless. I was always reliable, but never cherished. My parents and my brother packed up their lives and abandoned me without a word. I discovered the truth from the landlord a week later when he informed me that the lease had been terminated early. With barely any money left, I spent my initial nights at a friend's place until I ran out of options. Eventually, I ended up sleeping in the back of a small storage unit I rented with my last dollars. I snuck into a community center to shower, survived on spoonfuls of peanut butter, and filled out job applications using public computers. Eventually, I landed a night shift job as a waitress at a local diner. The manager was stern but kind-hearted. She paid me under the table until I could secure proper identification and allowed me to rest in the back room when exhaustion nearly knocked me down. I clawed my way out of despair. I purchased a prepaid phone, tracked every penny, and spent hours watching financial literacy tutorials. The first year was pure survival, but I endured. The turning point arrived when a regular customer at the diner offered me a temporary position organizing office archives. It paid far better than waiting tables, so I agreed immediately. That contract led to another, and then another. I proved my worth, showed up early, and absorbed knowledge quickly. By 22, I was freelancing full-time. By 25, I established my own consulting firm, starting with just a folding card table and a second-hand laptop. By 27, I had a team of contractors, a professional workspace, and high-profile clients. By 29, I was a self-made millionaire. Actual savings, a secure retirement fund, zero debt, a fully paid-off residence, and premium medical coverage. The moment my banking application displayed a 7-figure balance, I wept. Throughout those grueling years, my biological family never reached out. Not once. I occasionally saw my brother's profile online. He was married and living comfortable in another city. I often wondered if he ever mentioned my existence to his spouse. I attend therapy regularly now to process the trauma. I also keep a journal of every compassionate soul who assisted me when they had no obligation to do so. Recently, a podcast interview I gave regarding surviving family abandonment went viral online. It gained over 1 million views within days. My inbox was flooded with supportive messages from thousands of strangers. Then, one specific email stopped me in my tracks. The subject line read, "You are still our daughter." It was from my mother. There was no apology included, merely a short note mentioning she had heard my interview and suggested we converse. Shortly after, a second message arrived from my brother. "We miss you. Can we repair this?" I stared at the glowing screen for hours before closing the laptop. I needed space to process the emotional impact. My therapist, Sarah, advised me to take at least a full week before reacting. Grant yourself the time to experience whatever emotions emerge, she noted gently during our session. There is zero obligation to reply quickly. So I waited. I focused on my business, attended workout sessions, and dined with trusted friends. Yet those electronic messages haunted my thoughts constantly. My mother's note felt detached and cold. My brother's message was brief, yet appeared slightly more genuine. After 10 full days, I chose to reply to my brother first with a simple question. It has been 12 years. What prompted this sudden outreach? His reply arrived within an hour. He claimed the podcast made him realize the magnitude of their actions. He explained he was only 15 when our parents deserted me, insisting he had no power to stop them. He claimed he had searched for me online over the years, but lacked the courage to write, until seeing my public success made him proud. I remained skeptical. If he cared so deeply, why wait until I achieved wealth and visibility? When I confronted him directly, his next email became significantly longer. He confessed that money was tight for them. Our parents' business venture had failed. His wife was expecting their second child, and medical expenses were mounting rapidly. My stomach churned. There lay the true motive. I refrained from responding for another week. Then my mother sent a follow-up containing archived family photographs, infant pictures, beach trips, and winter moments with my brother. Snapshots of a past that felt like it belonged to a complete stranger. At the bottom, she wrote, "Errors were made. We wish to make amends." During our next session, Sarah reminded me that I held complete authority over my boundaries. "You owe them nothing," she stated firmly. However, seeking closure might assist your personal growth, whether that results in reconciliation or a final farewell. I decided to meet my brother alone. No parents present. We selected a quiet coffee house in Denver, halfway between our respective cities. I boarded a flight that morning, settled into a hotel room, and attempted to calm my racing heartbeat. At 2 in the afternoon, I walked into the cafe and recognized him immediately. He looked older, heavier, with thinning hair, though his eyes remained familiar. He stood up awkwardly as I approached. I refrained from embracing him. We simply sat opposite each other with our drinks like total strangers. The initial 20 minutes were painfully tense. Exchange of pleasantries about the flight and the local weather. Then, he began apologizing. "Claire, I am deeply sorry," Leo said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I was just a youth when it occurred. I had no idea they intended to leave you behind until it was already done." I was terrified of confronting them. I observed his demeanor carefully. He appeared sincere, yet I had been deceived before. I asked the painful question that had haunted my soul for over a decade. Why me? Why was I the one left behind? Leo looked down at his cup. They always viewed you as the resilient one, the independent child who would manage regardless. They convinced themselves you required less care than I did. They persuaded themselves you would thrive better on your own. It was the most absurd rationalization I had ever heard. I detailed my reality, sleeping in a storage facility, consuming raw peanut butter for weeks, and scrubbing floors on night shifts at 17. His face fell completely. "I didn't know," he whispered softly. "They claimed you had a structured plan, that you chose to remain behind with a friend's family." Every word they had told him was a complete fabrication. By the conclusion of our conversation, I was conflicted. Leo appeared genuinely remorseful. He shared pictures of his spouse and child, discussed his career as an accountant, and asked about my enterprise, notably refraining from asking for financial aid. When we prepared to leave, he offered a hug. I permitted it, though I kept my arms stiffly at my sides, feeling emotionally numb. Upon returning to my room, I contacted Sarah and detailed the interaction. She highlighted that while Leo expressed regret, he still painted himself as a passive bystander rather than taking accountability for 12 years of silence. He was 15, not 5, she remarked gently, old enough to reach out once he matured. That evening, my mother phoned me directly. Leo had evidently provided her with my contact number. Her voice sounded raspy and aged. She began weeping immediately upon hearing my greeting. She spoke of how proud she felt, how she always predicted my greatness. I allowed her to finish before posing the identical query. Why me? Her explanation differed drastically from Leo's. We were drowning in financial debt, Claire, she argued defensively. We could not afford 3 dependents. We recognized your intellect and assumed social services would place you in a far better household. We believed we were doing you a favor. I ended the call instantly, blocked her contact number, and threw my phone across the room in outrage. The following morning, an email arrived from my father, his first communication in 12 years. He offered 0 apology. Instead, he detailed their financial struggles, failed investments, his daughter-in-law's impending medical procedures, and their risk of eviction. At the bottom, he requested, "Can you assist your family in this time of need?" Not a single inquiry regarding my well-being. 0 acknowledgement of their desertion. I forwarded the message to my therapist. She phoned immediately, and we spent an hour discussing rigid boundaries and the distinction between helping someone versus enabling toxic behavior. By Monday morning, my choice was clear. I emailed Leo, expressing appreciation for our meeting, stating I was open to a relationship with him and his immediate family under strict conditions. 0 financial transactions, 0 loans, and absolute exclusion of our parents until they took responsibility. His immediate reply exposed his underlying motives. "I am thoroughly disappointed, Claire," he wrote bitterly. "Our parents are struggling. Family stands together. You are behaving selfishly with your wealth." All the guilt manipulation from my childhood resurfaced at once. I chose not to respond. Instead, I booked a 2-week retreat to Bali to regain my internal peace. 3 days into my trip, Leo left a voicemail apologizing for his outburst, claiming he understood my boundaries. I retained my defenses while enjoying the serene landscape, needing time to recharge. Upon my return, 6 additional frantic emails from my father awaited. I left them unread. Leo requested another phone call, to which I reluctantly agreed. He sounded calmer and shared that he had begun therapy himself. However, he eventually asked if I would meet our parents for just 1 hour in public. "I am not prepared for that, Leo," I stated firmly. He attempted to push, but backed off when I grew silent. The next day, Leo texted again, claiming our mother was weeping uncontrollably and that our father threatened to drive directly to my residence. Panic set in. I blocked Leo's number immediately, instructed my assistant that I would work remotely, ordered provisions, and isolated myself inside my apartment. On Wednesday, the building concierge called to inform me that an older couple was in the lobby asking for me. I refused the visit. 5 minutes later, my father called from an unlisted number. His voicemail was harsh. "Claire, we drove 8 hours to see you. You are acting like a child. We deserve an opportunity to explain." I deleted the audio and powered off my device. Thursday morning, loud banging echoed against my front door. I froze in bed, my pulse racing violently. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing in the hallway. "Claire, please," my mother cried through the wooden door. "We simply wish to talk." "We know you are inside," my father barked. We love you. We apologize. I refused to open. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, trembling. Eventually, they departed. I notified building security immediately, instructing them never to permit those individuals onto my floor again. On Friday, an email arrived from Leo expressing fury. He claimed I had humiliated our parents, forcing them into a cheap motel. He insisted his wife required surgery the following month and accused me of heartless cruelty. I refrained from responding. Instead, I packed a bag and boarded a flight to visit my longtime friend, Hannah, in Seattle. She had supported me during my hardest years, and I trusted her completely. During my stay, another call arrived. The concierge informed me that an ambulance had been dispatched to my building because an older woman claiming to be my mother experienced chest pain in the lobby. I felt sickened, yet I remained away. Leo phoned shortly after, shouting frantically, "Mom suffered a cardiac episode. She is in surgery. This is your fault for stressing her." I disconnected the call and phoned Sarah. "Claire, listen to me carefully," my therapist stated with absolute firmness. "You are not responsible for her health. This bears the hallmarks of emotional manipulation. Focus on your self-care." On Tuesday morning, I received an image of my mother in a hospital bed from an unknown contact, accompanied by the text, "She may not have much time. Do you wish to live with this remorse?" I blocked the number. Before I could leave my apartment after returning home, the concierge called once more. A young woman holding a small child was downstairs, claiming to be my sister-in-law. I decided to address this situation directly. I instructed him to send her up. The woman at my door appeared exhausted, with dark circles beneath her eyes. "I am Julia," she said quietly. "Leo's wife. I came alone because I wished to speak without family interference." I allowed her inside. She placed her sleeping daughter on my couch and sat at the kitchen counter. "I only discovered your existence 3 years ago," Julia confessed softly. "Leo claimed you ran away at 17 and severed ties. Hearing your podcast was a profound shock. I confronted him, and he finally revealed the truth." I listened quietly. "I am appalled by their actions," she continued, her voice trembling. "I urged Leo to contact you, but I had zero knowledge they intended to demand money. I am humiliated. While I do require a medical procedure, we possess insurance. Your parents are the ones facing financial ruin, not us." She pulled out her smartphone and displayed archived social media posts. My parents had posted photos years ago, asking for prayers for their troubled, runaway daughter, and claiming I had stolen their savings before disappearing. It was the elaborate web of falsehoods designed to portray them as heartbroken victims, posted years after they had left me. They are desperate now because their narrative is falling apart, Julia explained. Your podcast prompted people to ask questions they cannot answer. Her young daughter woke up then, a sweet toddler with curly hair. This is Maya, Julia introduced gently. She is 3. I want my children to know their aunt, but only if you desire that. Zero pressure, zero guilt. After their departure, I received an aggressive email from my father threatening legal action for defamation unless I removed the podcast and offered financial compensation. I forwarded the message to my attorney, David. This is an empty threat, David assured me over the phone. Truth is an absolute defense. Save every document. I will manage any legal filings, though I doubt they will proceed. The following day, David arranged a meeting with Leo and Julia at his office. When they arrived, Julia attempted to conceal a dark bruise on her forearm. The reality that emerged was horrific. Our parents had been leeching off Leo for years. When Julia confronted them regarding their lies about me, my father grabbed her arm violently during an argument. Leo had thrown them out of his home, prompting them to harass his workplace. David advised them to secure independent legal counsel, alter their home locks, and update their banking credentials immediately. That night, my father sent a series of unhinged text messages containing threats and insults. I blocked them all. The next morning, Julia called in tears. "They broke into our home. They stole Maya's infant albums, financial documents, and left a note saying, 'Family matters remain in the family.' I instructed her to notify law enforcement immediately and rushed to their location. The property was in disarray. David arrived shortly after, asserting that this escalation required immediate legal intervention. He assisted us in drafting emergency protection orders. I insisted Leo, Julia, and Maya stay at my high-security apartment. For several days, we lived together. David filed the legal protection documents, and a court hearing was scheduled. However, on Sunday evening, an email arrived from my mother. "If you appear in court tomorrow, you will regret it for the rest of your life." David added the threat directly to our evidence file. Monday morning arrived. We dressed professionally and proceeded to the courthouse. My parents were waiting near the entrance, looking worn down. They glared as we passed into the courtroom. When the magistrate called our case, David presented our evidence methodically. The break-in report, the threatening transmissions, the property damage, and the long history of desertion. When my father was questioned directly about abandoning a minor, he stammered, attempting to blame financial stress. The judge's expression hardened. She granted full protection orders for 3 years, prohibiting any contact or proximity to our residences and workplaces under penalty of immediate arrest. My parents stood frozen in shock as the ruling was delivered. As we exited into the corridor, my mother called my name softly. I continued walking forward without turning back. However, as we reached the parking area, my phone chimed with a picture from an unknown sender. It was an image of Maya playing in a park earlier that week, accompanied by 4 words, "This is not over." I showed David instantly. He notified law enforcement of the immediate protection order violation. We returned to my residence. I was exhausted from living in fear. "I am finished hiding," I announced to Leo and Julia. "They destroyed my youth. I will not permit them to consume my future." That night, my father's vehicle was spotted idling across the street. I captured photographic evidence and forwarded it to the authorities. The following day, I made a decisive move. I emailed my parents directly. "I know you are watching. Let us speak one final time. Tomorrow at noon, the cafe on 4th Street. Just me. No police, no attorneys. After this, you disappear permanently." My father agreed within minutes. I refrained from informing David or my family. I needed to confront this chapter independently. At noon the following day, I sat in the corner of the cafe as my parents entered. They appeared aged and diminished. "I did not arrange this meeting to reconcile or offer funds," I stated with complete calm. "I called this meeting to inform you that it is over. You have lost. You have lost me, lost Leo, lost your grandchildren, and lost any role in our lives." My father attempted to interrupt, but I held up my hand. "If you continue to stalk or threaten us," I continued, "I will publish every threatening text, every police report, and every document to your relatives, your church, and your community. I possess the resources to expose your actions completely. Do not test my resolve." My mother began weeping. We simply want our family intact. We made errors, but we deserve another chance. We are growing old. You should have considered that before abandoning a 17-year-old child, I replied coldly. Before fabricating lies, breaking into Leo's home, and threatening a toddler. My father snapped angrily. You are ungrateful. You owe us for raising you. I laughed directly in his face. Owe you? For providing the bare minimum before discarding me like trash? You are entitled to nothing. He sat red-faced and silent. This is your absolute final warning, I said, standing up. Violate the legal order again, and I will ensure everyone knows your true character. My mother sobbed. Do you truly despise us that much? I looked at her without emotion. I do not despise you. I feel absolutely nothing for you. You are total strangers to me, and that is your loss, not mine. I walked out into the afternoon light feeling lighter than ever before. I rejoined Leo, Julia, and Maya. Over the subsequent weeks, my brothers secured employment in my city, and they purchased a home nearby. We began hosting weekly dinners, establishing genuine family traditions, built on respect rather than toxic obligation. Zero communications arrived from my parents. Law enforcement confirmed they had returned to their home state. 6 months later, a letter arrived through my attorney's office from my mother. It contained no demands or excuses, merely a brief admission that they had failed as parents, an acknowledgement of the pain they caused, and a promise to honor the legal boundaries. I placed the letter inside my desk drawer, not as a sign of forgiveness, but as proof that I had successfully asserted my right to peace. Recently, we celebrated Maya's 4th birthday at my apartment. The rooms were filled with colorful decorations, laughter, music, and delicious food. As I watched my brother lift his laughing daughter into the air while Julia smiled beside them, I reflected on the cold note left on my counter 12 years ago. You'll figure it out. I had indeed figured it out. I had learned what real love looks like, what family truly means, and what I deserved all along. I am no longer defined by the abandonment of my past. I am defined by the strength I built, the success I earned, and the authentic family I chose to create.